In this video, we're introducing our latest paper filter collaboration with Sibarist. Welcome. My name is Patrick Rolf, and this is Coffee with April. For this episode, we're going to explore a new collaboration that we just launched here at April, and that's a new paper filter. Most of you by now, I think, have met or know or seen products from the Sibarist company out of Spain. They've been producing different paper filters for quite a long time now, and we've been discussing forth and back over several years how we can make a paper filter that really fits and suits the different April brewers. Now, the paper filter that we now ended up doing together is specifically made for two different reasons. One, it's to make the plastic brewer, the April Plastic Brewer, more diverse and dynamic in terms of the different choices you have when it comes to brewing. Two, it's the fact that we launched the April Hybrid Brewer earlier this year at the World of Coffee here in Copenhagen. And for that brewer, and I think most immersion brewers, we all know that we have the challenge of the drawdown. So usually we do that full immersion or partial immersion, and then we open up and the water starts draining really quickly. And then about halfway through, we see that water slowing down and slowing down and slowing down until it almost stands still. So that was one of the challenges that we wanted to see if we can solve together with Sibarist, and we're happy to say that we kind of did. So in this video, just for educational purposes, we're using the very first edition that we launched as a limited amount during the World of Coffee of the April Hybrid Brewer. So we're going to show you how we're using this new paper filter together with that brewer. Very soon, later this month actually, we're going to be launching the very kind of final version of the April Brewer. More about that in a different video. We're also going to show a kind of an adaptation of the recipe that we normally do on the April Plastic Brewer with these paper filters. But before I go in a little bit more in detail about the different paper filters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start the hybrid brew, because that's going to take a little bit of time based on how we're doing it. So I've already kind of prepared the paper filter. Going to give it a quick rinse. And don't worry guys, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I'm doing this once I started the brew. So we're giving it a proper rinse. After that, we're going to do a very, very basic recipe where we're going to take 10 grams of coffee actually. I prefer using a lower amount of coffee when it comes to immersion brews, because that allows me a bit more of a uniform saturation, especially in between different brews. And I'm not so concerned about the total volume. I just basically want a cup of coffee. So 10 grams. This is grounded on a Timor Sculpture 078 grinder on about 7, which is a little bit finer than what we usually would go. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start the brew by pouring a total of 50 grams through the coffee. Now, I almost always start with an initial pour where I let that first water go through the coffee, even if I do immersion brews, because I believe that kind of turbulence really helps with getting a higher quality result and more clear flavor notes out of the coffee. So we're gonna let this sit for about 40 seconds, and then it's going to be time to just basically pour the remaining part of the water. And what we're doing now is that we're pouring up to 170 grams. So it's a total ratio of 1 to 17. So before we do that, we're closing the valve, and we're just pouring up in a circle pour, very simple, making sure that we hit all of those numbers. And what you can see on this paper filter as well, if you look at other videos we've done initially with the April Hybrid, together with a more traditional wave paper filter, is that now you have no water going up on the sides. Everything is a lot more uniform and a lot more consistent. Now we're going to let this sit, and I'm going to show you a little bit how we prep this paper filter for a brew with the April Plastic Brewer. So for both brewers, it's about the same. We open up the filter in the base. Here you have kind of a cylinder shape or an oval shape that will help you fit much better into the bottom. Then we have two kind of edges in the bottom that we're going to fold up like this. and then it fits really easily into the brewer. Now keep in mind that this edition of the paper filter is custom made for the April Brewers. So we have changed a few different parameters and measurements of the paper filter to just fit perfectly in the April Brewers. And this is, again, it's based on the April Plastic Brewer together with the April Hybrid Brewer. So all the water has gone through and we're ready to start the brew. Now, a lot of you have seen our traditional kind of recipes where we're using 12 grams of coffee to 200 grams of water or 13 grams of coffee to 200 grams of water. What we're going to do here is we're going to use 13 grams of coffee and we're going to run that to 200 grams of water as well. And granted, we have actually grinded this a little bit finer than usual as well. This is actually the same grind size and the same grinder as for the hybrid brew. So this is about 2-3 steps finer than what we're used to with the traditional April paper filter. Now, what we're going to do to kind of compensate for that is to regulate how we pour. So I'm going to start by doing a 50 gram circle pour to make sure we have an even saturation. Let that sit. And after that, we're going to do multiple small pours. Basically, each pour is going to be divided into 25 grams. So this is going to be a little bit of pouring, much more than what we're used to, but this is just to compensate for that really fast flow rate, allow for a slightly coarser grind size together with this paper filter to enhance flavor quality overall. Because one of the challenges when you work with this style of paper filters is the fact that almost regardless of the grind size, it's going to go through really, really fast. And if you then compensate by going very, very fine on your grinder, what's going to happen is that you're actually sacrificing that kind of taste quality. So what I'm doing now is I'm pouring, looking at the water, and when I see that water goes through the bed, I'm going to do an initial pour. So this is less looking at the timer and much, much more looking at that coffee bed, right? And keep in mind, I'm pouring 25 grams in every single pour after that initial 50 gram pour. And now if we're looking over at the hybrid, we're touching 4 minutes total brew time. I'm gonna let that go up to 5 minutes, which is very long for any kind of immersion brew. But keep in mind here that we're gonna have a very, very fast drawdown. So that's not really gonna add any kind of time to the brew. So I don't hesitate for that longer kind of contact time. In the meantime, we're just gonna continue with this pour. I'm looking at the coffee bed, I see that water go through, and I'm making that other 25 gram pour. For reference, the coffee that we are using today is one of our favorite coffees this season. So wash processed Kenyan coffee from the Kamavindi farm, located in Embu, just south of Mount Kenya. Very kind of blackberry, very appley, very floral, complex coffee. One of the cleaner, kind of more crisper coffees that we're used to. So now with the plastic brewer, I'm just above 2 minutes and I have 2 pours left. If I would have done a standard April pour, 100-100, this brew would have already been finished. And now the hybrid is hitting 5 minutes, so I'm gonna open up the valve. We just let that go down, and we can see that it goes down really, really quickly. So that takes about 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds to actually go through. So we're looking at a total brew time of 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And with that, we're finalizing the last pour on the plastic. The last pour is done at 240. So again, we're having a much, much longer brew time here. But because we have less contact time between water and coffee, you have to think about brew time a little bit differently than what you do with the traditional kind of brew, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna let that water go through. We're gonna do a little bit of taste evaluation and then come back and discuss more about the new April and Sibarist paper filters. So we're back with just a few kind of last insights on this new paper filter, right? So first of all, we just want to thank you to Sibarist for being patient enough to work with us and kind of develop this product over a long time. We're really excited to finally be able to launch it. Granted, it's not going to be the cheapest paper filter on the planet, but it's going to make a really tasty cup of coffee. And most importantly, this for us is not so much about replacing the old paper filter, it's about adding an extra layer of just dynamic coffee brewing to it, right? It's about making the brewers more versatile. Something that came out of basically the April Brewers Cup, where we're traveling the world, we're seeing different people brew, and when judging those competitions personally, I want to be able to taste a wider range of different coffees and see just how dynamic the same coffee can taste depending on how you brew it. So it's really a fun product in terms of being able to realize how important brewing is. And paper filter as a product really makes a big difference when it comes to that final quality. So here in these two different brews, what we can find is that the hybrid version of this with this filter just comes out really clean. And because we have that really quick drawdown, you have so much time and space to play around with that total contact time, because you don't have to worry about that drawdown kind of clogging up or slowing down, right? Now, when it comes to the plastic brewer, you have this, again, really juicy, well-textured cup. Obviously, the pouring here makes a very big difference. You can adjust that forth and back. I wouldn't recommend running it with a classic 100 gram pour. And the more time we spend with this paper filter, we're going to develop more and more recipes and see also what kind of coffees it is very suitable for. This coffee here, for example, Camavindi, is an interesting reference because it usually has a normal kind of longer contact time. And in this case, with this paper filter, we can slow that down, or we can make that a little bit faster, lowering that total brew time, and then get a slightly different cup profile, right? So it's all about being dynamic. So we recommend basically running with both paper filters to be able to get very different brews out of that same brewer. But this is just the beginning. We as Sibarist have more things coming up, and we have more recipes coming for this channel in the future as well, right? When you see this video, these paper filters are already going to be available to order online if you want to. And if you have any questions on them, you just reach out. And as per usual, we're going to continue to strive to see how we can brew better coffee. And we want to thank you for following the journey, watching, subscribing, commenting, all of this. It makes a difference. And we just want to thank you again for watching and wish you a good day. We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see, because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.